IVM.
IVM Likes is an IVM production, and if you enjoy the show, check out our personal finance podcast, Paisa Vaisa. If you're like me and have no idea what mutual funds or SIPs are or how to save money like a responsible adult, you need all the advice you can get from Anupam Gupta on Paisa Vaisa. New episodes are out every Monday and Thursday. Welcome to another episode of IVM Likes, guys.
Woo! Hi.
With extra energy.
Yes.
Are you listening to the energy in my voice right now?
Yes.
I'm killing it.
6 in the morning right now. Loving this.
We have a 4-panel episode today again.
It's a norm now.
Special days.
That's how we're going to roll now.
So we have Abbas and Navin and Priyanka in the room. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Navin. What's up?
This is the first time I'm seeing you on a podcast.
I feel so good.
She's been here before. She's been here like a couple of
Twice.
times, right?
Not
2
when I
times.
was in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now we can holler at each other.
Yeah.
Wow. Such different combinations. Who
Yeah,
knows what
new
happened in this
permutations
episode?
and combinations.
Magic.
Alright, so today we're going to do our usual round of recommendations. We've got a book, a TV show, a movie, a podcast, all kinds of media, guys.
Yes.
We're just covering the whole gamut of culture.
Yep. We're like, just do stuff with your life.
Gotta reach out, man. Gotta
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
add more feathers to your
It's
hat.
peak everything season.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough life, huh? It's a peak life.
I know.
only.
And plus,
Oh.
like, it's like a Black Friday sale.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything goes.
Yeah. Too
Very
much
true.
media to consume.
That's true. Alright, so let us start with a TV show.
Yes.
Naveen? Alright, let's do this.
Okay, I know you're hating on me because you wanted to suggest this, but I took
Because I suggested it earlier in a discussion.
No, I was watching this
Weeks
on my
ago?
own. By the way, Netflix released a list of all these shows that were consumed fastest in the 24-hour frame.
Oh, correct.
And this show came up, and I was like,
I binged the show.
Yeah.
But it's a short show.
yeah, it's called Atypical. It's a beautiful show based on the story of a guy called Sam who's on the autism spectrum, and he's got a really supportive family. He's got a really weird lifestyle in general because he's from the spectrum, and while he's now ready to face real life, he's trying to talk to his counselor about how he now feels like a man he wants to date, but nobody really wants to date him because everybody thinks he's a weirdo.
Yeah.
So he tries to really get out of his mold and convince. So he thinks that everybody thinks of him as a weirdo. So that's why he wants to go out and impress girls, and he has no skills at all because the whole fact that he has to talk to people in public scares the shit out of him. And at the same time, he has his mom, who's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, the brilliant Jennifer Jason Leigh, because she's now overcome with emotions as to like, how do I deal with this?
Basically, she spent her whole life dedicated to
Dedicated, yeah.
finding out about the disease and joining community groups and things like that.
She goes for autism
Now-
walks and
yeah.
support groups. And
But now he
everything.
doesn't need her that much. He's a teenager. He's
Yeah.
trying to find his own way. So she feels like empty nest syndrome.
And that sends her hurtling in a different path altogether. And it's a great happy-go-lucky. There's Nick Dodani as well in the show who plays his friend. Nick Dodani is a famous Indian gay comic
Okay.
abroad who again, like a big inspiration in a way.
He got really popular because he had one of those memes, right? Like when he tells his parents that he was gay and his mother, so that his mother would stop looking for a girl from him. So she put out an ad saying, lesbian girl wanted with Indian girl wanted with similar family pressure.
Yeah.
I really butchered that joke, but you should find his set and watch it.
So, like, what's the humor to feels ratio per episode like?
It's equidistant.
No, yeah, I think the emotion is less in each episode per
Yeah.
se. I think overall there is an emotional, because the plot itself has emotion. He's a
Someone trying to come to
semi-autistic
terms,
kid
yeah.
trying to find love.
Yeah.
So, and his family and how they are behaving, how their life changes because of him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more funny each episode.
Okay.
But overall, of course, it is emotional because
feels are there, but I have
Definitely
laughed my
feels.
ass off at some
It
of the
was very
scenes
funny.
because especially with Nick Dodani only,
Yeah.
it's just like he's trying to. He works at this
Electronic store.
Yeah.
store, and he keeps on telling him how to go and pick up chicks, and he does the exact opposite thing.
Okay.
Right, and the moments, because my nephew is autistic and I see this behavior pattern, and it's good to have someone like depicted in a proper way,
Right.
where they depicted him in a, like for example, he's in a loud match, and if something goes wrong, for example,
Right.
a girl's ponytail flicks his face, then
And he held it,
he
yeah.
has a tenacity to like hold up
Right,
and not
right,
think about
right.
the consequences.
Exactly,
right? So
yeah.
that's how they are. So I found it hilarious because
Okay.
like who would do that? But they do that, and they treat the topic very lightly also. Like they don't really bludgeon you with it, but
Right.
the impact it has on the because he has a sister who's a star track runner and everything. So they also show how her life is affected by it
Right.
and everything. overall a brisk watch. Enjoyed. Season
I
2
think
is
my
already
favorite
announced.
character is the sister storyline
Yeah.
because she's a star athlete, but she spent so much of her life trying to save her brother from bullies in school and
Okay.
things like that. That she
Yeah.
her focus at a young age also is just not on herself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like when she gets a chance to win a scholarship to a better school, her mother's like, but who will give him lunch money? Like that's
Like, you have to be in the same
that's a-
school, right?
Yeah, only
Right.
role of hers is to give him lunch money and also take care of him when he has panic attacks. So yeah, a sensible comic take on this issue. Watch it, enjoy it.
How many episodes is that?
It's hardly 8 episodes.
episodes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And half an hour every episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, I think, primarily a comedy, I would say. But
Okay.
yeah, it's really good. Well done.
But done with a sensitive
It's a comedy
outlook.
about mental health.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Okay.
Which is rather rare also.
Yeah,
People
so
don't
mental
do
health, you can't. It's a topic only that is obviously lending itself to emotional
Right.
Yeah.
storylines, but it's still a comedy.
Hmm,
Very nice. All right, Priyanka, your turn.
Okay, so I am recommending a documentary called The Cut, which is published by Al Jazeera, and it's called The Cut Exploring FGM, the female genital mutilation, and it's extremely interesting and very, of course, you have a reporter-driven story behind it, and it focuses on Somalia and Kenya and how these places have the highest number of FGM, and how over time, even though there are people who've been, so the most interesting thing about this is that you have people who are religiously inclined towards doing something like this, and then there's tradition. So over a period of time with research, they figured that this is more to do with tradition than to do with religion. Okay, so
Or
you go
science for
back,
that matter.
or science for that matter. Yeah, there is no science doesn't exist here.
Yeah, but
firstly.
then they define it as a sort of science for that, you know?
Yeah. No, so for
What part of the world is this set in?
Somalia.
Oh, okay, Somalia.
So it has the highest number of cases.
yeah.
Mutilation,
Okay. And it basically starts with something that's extremely sensitive. This reporter, her name is Fatima Neb. Okay, and she is from Somalia, but then they went off to Sweden to get rid of the war and all that.
Right.
And she tries to talk to her mother because her mother came from that generation where they were cut. But initially she doesn't talk, she can't directly ask her mother that what happened to you. So she goes on, she talks to people about something like this from her mother's generation in Somalia, in Kenya, and even when she comes back to Sweden, from people from a similar community, women who are researchers, who've been studying something like this, and then she, at the end of it, she goes back to her mother and says, what happened to you? And she said that, yeah, I was cut, but it's something that did not affect me too much because it was a very mild cut. Okay, so then the best part is it is also sort of gory. You're not going to be comfortable with every time they discuss the kind of cuts there are, the stitches, and it's extremely uncomfortable, but when she comes back to her mother, that's when it strikes you that okay, this is, people are still living with it,
Right.
and they're like, it didn't affect us anymore. So it's something that's it's something that's been happening for a really long time now.
Correct.
It still happens, but the best part is these people are from villages, but they have so much access to research, they have so much access to these communities and self-help groups that they're differentiating between tradition and religion and education and making people aware. So they actually have this group where this woman goes to a bunch of men who are who are used to picking women for marriage who are cut,
Right.
because basically it's an imposter that this person is a virgin. Okay, that's their whole mindset. So like, okay, listen, watch this video because this female, this kid is being cut when she was 2. Are you going to let that happen to your daughter? And there's simple things like these. There are efforts being made. So extremely uncomfortable, but you don't need to be in a metro city, or you don't need to be in a Cape Town where.
How gory is it to watch though? Like, I'm okay with the uncomfortable topic.
Yeah.
It's the visual that sometimes gets
It's
to me.
not so they don't like when they're showing cuts of whatever's happening, so they'll show the person's face, not what's happening literally, and there are sounds of this particular video that, like, suppose I'm showing you a video.
It's implied goriness.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
But even
I get
BBC
it, I
did
get
this
it.
study a few years back about how many women who grow up have like so many problems with UTI and infection because of FGM.
Yeah.
Such a ridiculous tradition that still continues. I just
Yeah.
don't get it sometimes. It's like 2017.
Yeah, and they make it very clear that it's not,
Yeah.
they make it very clear that it's got nothing to do with only being a Muslim or being a Catholic.
She pointed at him and Catholic she pointed at me. She said Catholic and pointed at me.
Just an example of the racism I face
Every day.
Shit, I'm so sorry.
in the studio.
It was a reflex. I'm sorry.
They're your identities, you guys.
Very strategically, Muslim on the left,
Catholic
on the right.
Shit,
But you
people
get
are
a
going to
point.
hate me already.
No man, worse things have been said here.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
To Josh mostly.
Okay, so where does one watch this movie, and is it made by, is the journalist who's talking to her mother, is she the journalist?
She is the journalist, but she's a correspondent. She doesn't, basically she's freelanced her work to Al Jazeera, and it's on there. It's on YouTube as well as on Al Jazeera's page. So this female is known to do a lot of research, and because it came from where she comes from Somalia, it's something that
She has a personal story in it.
yeah, and she's featured on most of the panel discussions as of now on Jazeera because they want to talk to her about her report. So yes, it's
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called The Cut.
The Cut.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it's a full-length documentary on YouTube, is it?
full length.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. That was Priyanka. Abbas, let's hear that book recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm recommending a novel that's called Eileen. It's written by this writer called Otessa Moshfegh. And it came out in 2014. It's set in the Christmas week of 1964. The book, what stood out for me was, as the title suggests, it's about this girl called Eileen who is in her early 20s. And she's one of the most vivid fictional characters that I've read in recent times. The tone of the novel is that it's very darkly humorous. This is Christmas time, so obviously it's snowy and cloudy and very damp and dark as the weather goes. And that's also kind of how Eileen's life is in reality. She's taking care of an alcoholic father. She has a mother who passed away when she was really young. They're not really very well-to-do financially. She's working in a mental institution of boys where she's working as a secretary. And basically she lives in a very small American town, which she doesn't even name. She calls it Xville because she's like, this could be any small town in America. So the overall environment of the book is in stark contrast with the cheerfulness that you should feel during Christmas time. But all of this is not written in a way that makes you feel bad for her, because as I said, it's very darkly humorous and it's written from the first person point of view. So she kind of very, in a way, whenever I would read it, I was always imagining Aubrey Plaza's voice in my head when I was reading it. Like it's that
April Ludgate.
Yeah, it's that dull kind of, I don't give a shit anymore kind of a voice. So she describes the things that happen in her day-to-day life, like she has a crush on a guard in the mental institution where she's working. She sometimes just peeks in the boys when they're masturbating, and she just does this all kind of weird stuff. She kind of describes the kind of abuse that the guards and teachers do with these boys in a very like a cold way, and then she describes the kind of the instances that she has to face with an alcoholic father and all of this. And what the novel is basically building up on is that Eileen decides that after Christmas I'm going to run away from here and everything will be done and I'll go to New York. And then in the middle of the week the mental institution hires this new psychiatrist called Rebecca, and Rebecca is everything that Eileen is not. She's confident, she's hot, she's very well read, and she knows how to talk to the boys. Even in a small town, the one club that Eileen has never really gone to, she goes there. So Eileen develops a crush on Rebecca. But this is not the kind of crush where it's sexual or romantic in nature. It's just like
aspirational.
When someone really cool addresses someone uncool and she's like, we're best friends now, okay? Like it's that kind of a crush. So for the rest of the week, all Eileen wants is to get any kind of confirmation or kind of validation from Rebecca. And they kind of strike a friendship. And then the climax of the book is I think around 290 pages.
Why are you telling us everything?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't know the
I'm not
climax.
telling you the climax. So 290 pages. And about the last 50 pages of the book, there's a twist which I did not see coming.
God damn, you're going to read this book.
And it goes in a direction where you don't see it going at all.
What could it be?
Rebecca's running the ring, the whole masturbation ring.
Not really. It doesn't go that far.
Okay.
But it goes in a slightly dark direction that you don't expect it to go.
Is there murder?
Well, I will not say anything about that.
It should be murder.
Eileen murders somebody.
Ooh.
She murders Rebecca.
Eileen doesn't exist.
Eileen doesn't exist, yeah.
Read the book,
Rebecca
guys.
doesn't exist.
Wow, you guys.
It's her own figment of imagination
Yes,
and she's
oh my
Rebecca.
God, that was
It
exciting.
was-
We got it. We
Fight Club.
cracked
Fight Club.
Wasn't written by Christopher Nolan or David Fincher, guys.
it. We cracked it, but we got it.
But it's written very well. It's not very long. I said 290 pages. I mean, it was actually nominated for the Man Booker Prize, and usually such books have like really tough words and really heavy. It is a heavy book, but it's written in a very fluent way. I didn't at any time feel like it was going haywire. So very well written. I loved the character. There are about like 5 or 6 characters throughout the novel, so not many characters. Very condensed novel. So please read it. Very well written characters, and it's a very well written book. So it's called Eileen. Check it out.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to recommend a podcast today again. So this show that I'm going to recommend is not a new show per se. It's like one of those shows where when you come to it, you're like, oh my god, thank god there are 100 episodes I can listen to. So the show is called Reply All. It is a popular show, obviously, because it is one of Gimlet Media's first and most popular show.
Yeah.
Because their description is too simplistic. They say it's about the internet, but it's really more than that.
Yeah.
So it's hosted by this guy called PJ Boat and Alex Goldman. And they have a producer called Shruti Pinmaneni who sits in on a lot of the episodes because she brings a lot of the best stories, according to me. So the connection of the internet to each episode is sometimes in a major way, and sometimes it's almost like a side story, right? The internet is a feeble connection, but the story itself is super interesting. And they are definitely like journalistic reporting stories, like stories that have taken a year and more to build. So one of my favorite episodes is one called Shine On You Crazy Goldman, where they interview this guy who runs a internet web chat room for when you're super, super high and you're freaking out. So these people just calm them down, basically. He logs on all the time, whenever he can. And people are just like, dude, am I real? Do I exist? Kind of stuff. And his job is to calm them down on the internet. So he talks, when he's interviewed, he tells PJ Ward, who has never done any drugs, by the way, the host, that a little bit of LSD is good for you. You know, it makes you creative, it stimulates your mind, and it opens up another side to your brain that you didn't know. So PJ Wood is like, oh my god, I feel like as a journalist, I have to follow the story and do some LSD. But I have never done any drugs in my life. So then the guy tells him that, you don't need to do LSD and go on a trip. I'm talking about LSD to open your mind. It means you need a small dosage every day.
Right.
So every day, him and Shruti Panmaneni take a little bit of LSD and come to work and try to see how people are reacting to them and how it's changing, whatever. Shruti, for the first 3 days, they're really happy. They're having the best and they're feeling super creative and they're talking a lot. And PJ's like, more people are coming up to my desk and talking because usually I have a very grumpy
demeanor.
Demeanor. Nobody talks to me at work. So, but now I feel like I'm open to people and things like that. They're recording themselves being insane. And then Shruti after 3 days quits because she starts to feel too guilty about it. She starts to get a little paranoid. She's like, nobody else knows, but I feel like it's not nice to hide things and things like that. She gets like crazy. So she stops. PJ continues to do it. And he just keeps recording how he feels during it. It is quite incredible to listen to a high person really opening up their brain and just recording what they're thinking at
the
that
entire
time.
one episode,
It's
but
one episode.
segments
It's 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's just the whole story of I did LSD for a week.
Oh.
And the interview in the top.
Okay.
Then there's an episode that they do which is really good called Entry and Exit, where they talk to this Hasidic Jew man who lived in this community where they don't use internet, technology, etc.
Yeah.
But he was a teacher, so he was assigned the first computer that came into the market for teaching purposes. He discovers the internet. He's alone. He has never watched a movie in his life. Nobody has.
Yeah.
He starts to talk to people online, watch movies. He used to hide in his basement and watch movies and videos and basically started to lose his mind.
Yeah.
Started to question his religion and finally left the Hasidic Jew community. His family completely disavowed him. He didn't go to his kids' weddings or anything like that because the community literally shunned him out. And then many years later, when the Hasidic Jew community had a meeting saying, we cannot ignore the internet. We need it in our day-to-day lives as well. They started to make a safe version of the internet. So they had a software which would basically block everything that would be offensive to you.
Right, not kosher.
Yeah, non-kosher things.
Yeah.
Like ads with women on them and things like that. So you will see a web page with massive black spots. You'd be able to read the information you need. So he joined the community, that internet community.
But the Jehovah's Witness can't reach out to you.
Yeah.
They can't talk about their Lord and
that's
Savior Jesus Christ.
So this guy then joins the Hasidic Jew communities on the internet and starts to get a little bit like more acceptance back. He misses it. Like he does not believe in it anymore, but he misses his life, his friends. That's all he knew for many years. It is such a well done story. There are a couple of
Hasidic so much. I need an Eno right now.
Oh God.
Have you heard the episode? My favorite reply all is they actually explore how Pepe the
Pepe
Frog
yeah.
became a symbol of white
Alt-right.
supremacy.
Yeah.
It's a very good episode.
There's another episode where the connection to the internet is so whatever. Is basically this guy in jail who should write a blog.
That's a very good. That's
it's a
four-part
episode, and it got a lot of debate around it because Shruti Pinmaneni basically talks to this guy who runs a blog from the jail. He writes a letter to his mother. His mother retypes it onto the blog.
Okay.
And he's basically talking about his life in jail. She starts to talk to him, becomes friends with him, starts to try and investigate the story, the crime he was involved in. Very serial, but not as serial, obviously, because it's 4 episodes. But the flack it got was that she talks to him so much in depth, like over 2 years. They call all the time, they talk politics, they're friends now.
Yeah.
And she's still exploring the story, so she's calling victims from that time. He's accused of murder, basically.
Okay.
He's also on the spectrum. And he used to be a big bully in school. Like he was on the spectrum, he would beat up people basically.
Correct.
Him and his friend were accused of murdering their third friend basically.
Right.
And that guy just said that it was this guy's fault. I didn't do anything. So anyway, basically at the end of the story, she concludes. You follow a story for 4 episodes, you think they're going to find the answer. She concludes that he was the killer. That is her conclusion.
But the final episode actually is a conversation between Shruti and the prisoner in the room in jail.
Yeah.
And it's really
like she
really,
takes the recorder
really
there.
good. Yeah.
And then so apparently after the show came out, obviously I wanted to read as much about it. The blog he had left the blog, he had stopped doing it. But then he started writing again because he felt like he was being misrepresented on the podcast.
Yeah.
He wrote a 4-part series saying we let Shruti into our lives because we thought she was going to do justice to our story, but she just wanted to do this for ratings or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
So really interesting podcast to listen to. It's called Reply All. And now should we take a break?
We should.
Yes.
Alright, let's go around the room. What did everybody recommend? Abbas recommended.
Eileen, the novel.
Navin recommended.
Atypical, the TV show.
And Priyanka recommended.
The Cut documentary.
And I recommended the podcast called Reply All. Let's take a quick break and come right back.
Shunyavan, 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 Shunyavan.
$1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Alright, we're back. So now, today our topic of discussion is coming of age and YA movies in the Indian context. Now, obviously, internationally, we are so aware of their high school system and, sophomore years of college and things like that.
They have lockers, guys.
I know more
Yeah,
about
it's a big deal.
their
The
courses
hell?
and sociology, and I know more about their courses than actual Indian courses.
So, but there is a real lack of like that in India. Because I think our school education system is so bad.
Yeah.
They're like, we can't put this on TV.
Exactly.
It would just be kids studying really
Yeah.
So, we're just discussing teenage coming of age shows and movies as well. And I just realized that the biggest coming of age movie in India is Dil Chahta Hai.
Yeah.
Where everybody is super old.
Exactly.
Which is quite sad.
And there's only
Or
one
even
shot
Kuch
of...
Kuch Hota Hai was quite
Because that's
good.
kind of coming of age. But
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan was like 35 or something at that
Yeah.
time.
And again, like all of these, like they keep the colleges or the infrastructure as a background, right? Like there's always the Xavier's or whatever.
Yeah.
And this happened in Jo Jeeta Wohi Sikandar as well, where like we were thinking about like seeing them more in college
Yeah.
or school
Yeah.
or whatever they were in.
Yeah, they were kind of in the middle.
School.
Were they school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Aisha Julka was wearing the weirdest costume. But for school, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like everything's about their lives and their love stories and everything,
Yeah.
and like the backdrop is just forgotten entirely,
Correct.
where there's nothing really happening there.
Like they go to school once or twice and they're like, that's how you know
Yeah,
they
that's
were in
it.
school.
Yeah, like Dead
School.
Poet Society, if I look back at it, I'm like the institution played a very key role in the
Yeah.
story itself.
Right.
That's why they were objecting against it. And then you have Mohabbat Hai, which is spun out from that.
Oh God.
And it's all about them finding love outside and dancing on the street during Holi. I'm like, guys,
I used
Yeah.
to love Mohabbat.
Oh,
Are you going
God.
to judge me?
yes, totally.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a terrible movie.
You're racist and you don't even like good movies.
I gotta say though, if we look at things set in school, Hippipure was really close to that because Hippipure,
Yeah.
every episode was at least them in class once.
Yeah.
And that stupid grey uniform.
Yeah,
It was very
green.
Green grey sort
Yeah.
of.
Wasn't it Xavier's? It was shot in Xavier's, right? Or was it?
No, it was, okay, I'll tell you, fun fact, it was
Yeah.
shot in my school.
Really?
It
Which
was
is?
Sacred Heart Boys School right here. The exterior shot was from the Sacred
Oh,
Heart.
okay.
And I don't know where it
Interiors
was.
to studios वगैरह
हाँ,
होगा.
कोई तो कोई और ही किया. But then it was good to like because all of them
Yeah,
were like
yeah.
young.
Hippipure was such
famous.
an important
It
show
was
in our
good,
lives
yeah.
at that time because
Yeah.
it was like, this is a teen show, it was parents approved.
Yeah.
Even though they were like basic love stories. and
It
that.
was, but then I think I remember certain storylines. There was one where they were actually exam stress was examined.
Bullying-
They do one about,
bullying as well.
Yeah, they were about
Bullying.
tutoring and should you pay
Yeah,
for like
yeah,
classes
yeah.
Teenage
outside.
pregnancy was also highlighted.
Yes.
Lot of stuff. I followed the show because Vishal was big on Disney R and he was the most
Their cast was really important
good.
because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Purab Kohli and all of them came out of
Mehul and some.
Yeah.
And they were at least close to the age that they were playing.
Playing, yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
good.
Another great example is Rockford, which is Nagesh
Rockford
Kapoor
was,
knows one of the
yeah,
few.
very good.
Yeah.
And they again
Classic.
like went all with like what the kid has to do, and it was very slow.
Right.
But in the skit, one scene is just him distributing chocolate in a big bag,
Yeah.
and the bully's like taking his case in that,
Yeah.
and he's trying to have this affair with his teacher, and like he has a crush on her.
I think the
all
thing
of that.
in movies, the reason it doesn't work maybe is because we don't have teenage stars or like young stars, except for like Shahid Kapoor who did Ishq Vishk. Or,
Yeah.
you know, like a very few.
Yeah, I
But
think
that's a love story, in
College
a
setting.
yeah, in a college setup.
Exactly, so all
then
of
there's
But
these
no
it is still
focus.
coming of
Setup.
age, though. It is still coming of age. So it does count, but I wouldn't say.
But it's heavily a love story.
The lives of these teenagers don't resemble the lives of normal or even close to the everyday teenager who goes
Fair
to
enough.
college.
Fair
Because I think there are two things. One is that, as you said, we are very afraid to cast people who are close to the age of teenagers in movies. And second thing is, of course, that holier than thou attitude that we have, that our children are like very pure, very
Pure.
pious.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't do
Though,
anything.
Wake Up Sid though. Great coming of age movie because he fails everything. And I'm like, yeah, he has to fail. He literally did not study once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, that was only like the first half an hour of the film. Then again, it becomes something about
Yeah, we need so.
Still
for example,
transformation.
when
coming
13
of age. Yes.
13 Reasons Why came out,
Hmm.
and I was just like, this is too much, yeah. It's like, no one does this. And I spoke, but I was like, I kind of overlooked it, but friends of mine who go to schools abroad, they said, "Ki, this is a very real problem. They have
Right.
Yeah.
literally, they have all these slut shaming, bad
Right.
names,
Yeah.
abusives,
Right.
homophobia, sexism, everything happens in these schools only. So like, they actually captured a lot of that essence, and that's what we need sometimes.
Yeah.
3 Idiots, for example, they got the institutionalization of engineering and everything out, but then they cast like 40-year-olds again.
Yeah.
It's like,
And also another thing, like you mentioned, Rockford, Tare Zameen Par, 3 Idiots. They're all more to do with boarding schools and hostels.
Correct.
same with
And-
Aankhon Mein Ek, which came
Yeah,
out
which
this
you
year.
recommended, yes.
Basically, you need for the story to matter, you need them to be together all
Yeah,
the time.
all the time,
You
yeah.
have to. Otherwise, वो घर चले जाते हैं रोज. तो
That's why
what do I do
for
with
me,
that?
if Harry Potter is the main character, Hogwarts is the biggest
Correct.
character in the
Yeah,
whole
Correct.
that's true.
True, true.
Yeah,
because you
yeah,
fall in
yeah.
love with the spiraling, and we have some great colleges in Bombay itself. Like we have some great universities that Dil Dosti etc. You're
Yeah.
talking about, which is on the whole Delhi politics, student politics,
Right.
main thing. And the movie was very bad, but
Yeah.
then
I feel like every time there's a TV show that shows a college scene from India, there's always like somebody doing a backflip or a cartwheel or a skateboard. I'm like, nobody in any college is doing that.
Chale jaise hawa,
The
sanan
opening
sanan.
shot, like this
Yeah.
is, yeah. It's
Main
insane.
Hoona was also like
Yeah.
College
like
based.
technically.
Yeah.
There are
They're
cheerleaders.
hitting on the teachers, doesn't
Which
matter.
Indian school has cheerleaders? Dude? Who has cheerleaders?
They wish, man.
Farah
They
Khan
wish.
Jr. was
The
everything.
basketball team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
all
so
sports.
vital.
You know that whole cheerleaders sequence is for one scene where Shah Rukh Khan gets kicked on the butt by one of them.
Yeah.
She dressed up and like 20 girls for that one scene.
There's
But
like
another show was Remix, which did really
Yeah,
well.
which was very,
Yeah.
really good.
Which was so popular. It was.
But
and it
remix
was
is very much like they
love
are so
story,
rich.
triangle.
Yeah.
No, but they were not like everyday kids because they were like kids
Mansions.
of politicians and film
Yeah,
stars
yeah.
and whatnot because they had to prove that they were rich kids.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, who can afford this lifestyle?
And all the parents were strategically all the washed out TV actors from 90s. So they would get, so, but then I learned few words from watching Remix because
Yeah.
they were like all these elitist South Bombay girls.
Yeah.
Kind of,
What-
Akansha,
what
I
is-
can't believe you had perms without me, that kind of stuff. Like all that went
Too
on.
sweet for sweets.
Yeah.
Fat.
Pooj.
Yeah. Yeah.
all that choosing. Yeah.
Remix is a really big thing. Like, I remember they used to shoot in Malad. So when I was in FIJC.
Because
right?
when you think of rich South Bombay kids,
Of course,
think of Malad.
So they used to shoot at film studio or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was in FIJC and malls were like a big thing at that time.
Right.
Malls had just
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Inorbit Mall in Malad had just
Yeah,
opened.
yeah.
So from Parla, when I was studying in Midway,
It feels so weird. The malls just happened like
Yeah.
10 years ago.
They were a thing, man.
It changed the landscape of the city.
I know, right? Now every landmark is the mall only.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Andheri mein kis side pe wo mall ke paas. But anyway, so I was in FIJC and we used to, for midday, I go to bunk classes and go to Inorbit Mall.
Right.
Just to sit at the food court.
And
Right,
Malad was
yeah.
like the hub of malls because there was a mall outside the station called The Mall. That's so meta at that very level. Understand malls.
Yeah. And then we used to sit at Inorbit and eat at the
Right.
food court. And I remember like the remix kids used to come there to hang.
Oh.
And all these college kids used to lose their shit.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like they used to try to get photos with them and we just had new phone
Right.
cameras.
They also just happened.
That also just happened. Seriously,
Right
I
at the
didn't even
turn
have
of century.
my phone didn't have a camera in it, you
Oh,
know.
shit.
Yeah.
No, but that's another thing. If
And
you
they were
see,
such big stars at that time. It's so weird.
most American college shows, technology is such a huge part of what they do. Like there's so much texting, they're
Yeah.
taking videos of everything. Whereas I don't really see that in any college or school film or TV show that you see right
Yeah,
now, because
that is true. Like
it doesn't figure
I read
in
a
there.
lot of this YA romance type stuff sometimes,
Yeah,
and
of course.
all of them have a lot of this story. That stories are completely based on this person you met while playing a game online
Right.
and you didn't know. This person who like only emails you, and it's all technology based. It's phone fights, and she sent a Facebook photo to whatever. It's all technology based. Whereas in you don't do that in Indian context.
Yeah.
Because the teacher will take your phone and keep it for 1 week and not give it back to you.
But I'm sure kids now do use that kind of technology all the time.
They do,
They're
yes.
super dependent on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Why do they not show realistic college TV or like I don't get it. Why
Because
is that
again,
a
you
genre
have-
that's lacking in India?
You'll have to cast a Salman Khan or a Shah Rukh Khan as a college kid. Even a Ranbir Kapoor is like too old to play a college kid now.
Like
Yeah.
when Y Film started and they did those 3 movies they did that was really youth based. Love Ka The End.
Yes, I've seen that
Something
one.
about Maruti car, I forgot. What is it called?
Maybe Dad Ki Maruti.
Maybe Dad Ki Maruti.
And Mujhse
Yeah.
Friendship Karoge. And that was actually Facebook based. That was like Facebook catfishing story.
The F
Yeah.
of friendship was the Facebook
Yeah.
F in the poster.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I think they did well. But I
They
think
did, but then again, I remember the one I saw, Love Ka The End. Even there, environment that was shown in the school and the Bombay that was shown in that film was very fake.
Yeah.
Like it was extremely well lit.
Yeah.
And just to be, hey, chalo Carters jate hain, and then you would just
basically there
like,
are no middle class schools.
Yeah.
There's nothing like our experience. There's student of the year type of like super elitist or that's it.
Yeah.
And some kid will throw a party and it'll be a bungalow. I mean, nobody has a bungalow in Bombay to throw a party.
The cutest movie that comes to mind when you think of kids, again, like Tara Zameen Par is like the poster boy
Right,
of that
yeah,
genre,
yeah.
but then Stanley Ka Dabba is genuinely the
Yeah.
That was
most
really
cutest,
good.
warmest movie.
That was amazing.
That was what Tara Zameen Par would have looked if Amol
Amol Gupta had
was still
done
leading
it.
it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Stanley Kadaba was really
Yeah,
nice.
again, like Rockford, Stanley Kadaba, again we go into that indie genre or indie
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To
I think
get
Dear
genuine.
Zindagi was kind of coming of age though, right? The one with Alia.
But
I've
she
not
she
watched
was a working girl in that
Yeah,
film.
that's
Yeah,
as
she's
well.
a
But she does come of age. She goes to therapy and shit. She's not a singer rapper. What?
Cinematographer.
Yeah, yeah.
Cinematographer.
Yeah.
Again, you had to have Shah Rukh
Not
Khan play a
singer.
psychiatrist
Yeah,
and just ruin
yeah.
it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was really bad. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, I guess.
Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na was a good,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
I
coming
think
of age
with
film.
most
How can we
stars,
miss
their
that?
first movies are where they're teenish, like Ranbir
Kind
with
of.
Wake Up Sid, even Imran Khan in Jaane Do Ya Jaane Na, Janice, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so weird. Maybe
You know,
they just start out like that.
another good coming of age film was Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na, where he actually gets rejected and comes to terms with that fact by the end of the film.
Yeah. Ana Mere
yeah.
Pyar Ko
Yeah,
Main.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
Anna,
yeah.
by the way. It's like the Kumar Sanu
Tell
role.
Priyanka.
It's Anna Priyanka. It's catchy name.
Why you calling me?
Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's different from Amina, okay? Like
That's super weird. Even Just Mohabbat and stuff. Like, you know, so Hebe
Oh,
Puri
my
Bach-
biggest brand with Just Mohabbat.
Let me come to that. setting you up for that
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
Like Hebepure apparently had 2 seasons, okay? The first season was 80 episodes,
Yeah.
which is basically when they were in school.
Like a podcast.
We're
And
halfway there.
The second season is when they're in college.
Yeah.
That was 45
It was
episodes,
really
and the
bad.
college was really bad
Really
because
bad.
as soon as
Yeah.
you grow these people up, the storylines just don't matter.
And it was pretty unrealistic because remember, Mehul was the brainy nerd.
Yeah.
Who used to be the topper every
Yeah.
time in
He-
the
for-
in the
you
school
remember
season.
these names?
And for some
His
reason,
real name is also
Maybe
Mehul and his
yeah.
actor's name is also
for
Mehul.
some reason in the college wala season, he failed.
Yeah, and he tries to kill himself.
Kill himself, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Samantha and him fall in love.
Yeah, something like that. It was really.
From the treasury.
That's-
Saranya's
Every
identical.
time I watch Dil Chahta Hai, the only thing I can think of is Hebepure because Samantha is in it.
Yeah, Avantika.
Right. Yeah.
That's Avantika, right?
No, Samantha.
Sorry, Samantha.
From Hebepure.
But that pale girl, no?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
with
Who
the
calls
side chinging.
Amir Khan's Akash name in very weird.
Akash. Okay, but so I'm saying that when they grow up to second season where they become adults,
Yeah.
the stories are no longer good.
Exactly. So just Mohabbat. Okay, and this is like I've been cheated throughout my life, but nothing felt so bad because I watched Wonder Years much later after Just Mohabbat happened, and I'm like, oh my god, they totally copied that shit. Okay,
Mohabbat was amazing.
except the ghost friend who's imaginary. That was a different thing, but that's like more like Kevin Aaron talking to himself again.
That's true.
But what happened
about
was in Wonder Years they waited 6 years for the actors to grow up, so they could have a teenage story after they grow up. And here on Just Mohabbat, the season's
They made a
over.
look.
All of a sudden, Swastal said, he's like, मैं संजू, मैं बड़ा हो गया. And then we
That's
have to
when
just,
time jump came
yeah,
in.
time
That
jump
was a
came in.
big deal.
We have to believe that. And I just hated that show after that. Kunal Rai
I know,
Kapoor was
yeah,
there
Yeah,
again.
he was Sanju.
No. Vatsal said was Sanju, no?
Oh, then Sanju's friend. I forgot
Yeah,
his name.
Sanju's best friend.
Yeah.
Forgot his name.
Moti or something. I don't know. And
Yeah,
so-
even I totally lost.
and the ghost kid is still
interest.
small only. Like,
Yeah,
why
it
didn't the
was
ghost
really
consciousness also
stupid.
grow up?
Yeah, Ghost Kid's name is Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
He
my
still
god.
acts, he still
Wow.
acts in Crime Patrol
Nostalgia
shows and
is
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love like once in a while when your Miss Malini's or Times of India does,
For a second.
does a
Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
It's always like it's sad.
Even the Shakalaka Boom Boom boys now.
yeah.
He's a hottie now, apparently. Like, see, so the whole criteria for getting into Bollywood main lead movies where you're a kid basically is also you have to be fair and plump. Like that's
Yeah.
the criteria. Remember that kid from Mujhse Dosti Karoge? Or like
Yeah, I do.
Abracadabra, that fat kid.
Yeah, who from you're saying Shakalaka Boom Boom?
No, this is the kid from Abracadabra.
Shararat.
No, Baba, what is Shararat? This
The
is
kid in Mujhse Dosti Karoge.
What is
Yeah.
Mujhse Dosti
और मुझसे
Karoge?
शादी करोगे.
Mujhse Dosti Karoge.
One with Hrithik Roshan.
Yeah.
I remember that kid.
That kid, yeah.
The kid who plays Hrithik Roshan as a kid.
Okay.
Kid. So that's all like Hrithik Roshan in all the childhood fantasies is a fat plum kid. Then it doesn't have to be Hrithik Roshan. Which hasn't happened
Yeah,
in my
even
case.
in,
So I object. I would project my fatness on those
Where
kids.
did Vatsal said go? He made the Tarzan movie, right?
He's still around.
He was there. He was on some serial
Yeah.
on Star for a while.
He's still employed.
That's good,
Just
man.
Mohabbat
That's
paid
really
off.
good.
Yeah.
You guys remember Banegi Apni Baat? Banegi
Yeah.
Apni Baat was also quite good.
I remember.
This is old people
There was
stuff.
a Banegi Apni Baat was really popular, and there was this other show that I cannot remember. I'm sure if I talk about it, I'll remember. It was two best friends, two girls. One is like super
Saya.
modern. Yes, oh my god, which one? R. Madhavan was on it.
Which one is that?
Saya.
Saya.
I don't remember
I guess
the
you
name.
guys came like guys were still a little too
So
young.
the girl who plays the non-modern girl in the white, she wears salwar kameez to college. She's married to Rohit Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Madhavan was the hero in that show. It was so
It
good.
was pretty
I
good,
love
yes,
that show.
yes.
Nice.
It was very much college though.
So like the movie, vomited the bad stuff out.
Yeah.
Coming up with the good
stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but it doesn't happen anymore, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. I think maybe now kids just watch Netflix.
Yeah, now I think the
but
TG
I
is
think
online.
MTV or Channel V went into this phase where they
Correct.
were doing only.
Ekta Kapoor was doing a few
yeah.
of
What are the
them.
names? Yeah.
So I know the girl who wrote Hebepure, Nupur Asana. She directed Mujhse Friendship Karoge, and then she directed something for Alt Balaji,
Okay.
which is also a web series for teenagers
Okay.
type something.
Dude, all
That's her
Balaji is like
genre.
some messed up shit going on.
not seeing
Right,
Ragini
their
MS
numbers are really good,
Their
man.
numbers are really good. They're doing
Again,
really well.
so speaking about the crowd that's watching the shit than actual people who are making it.
Alright, so I guess that was the end of our discussion. Clearly there is a real lack. I think we should make some YA TV shows.
We should.
TV shows, okay.
YA podcasts. Ooh, how can we make a YA podcast?
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
send in your ideas to us and we'll incorporate them in our podcast.
Totally.
We'll only play the teenagers.
Yeah.
OMG, yeah.
OMG.
Lit
Yeah.
AF, Navin.
You guys are so old.
What? What's the new expression?
Alright, bye. Excuse me, भैया. Excuse me.
बोलिए मैडम.
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM Likes है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, थिंग्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर जकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है. आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम. आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप. सब आपकी उंगलियों पे.